Here in the Northern Rockies, dark winter months are outlasted in basements, dens, and nooks, where kindred souls gather to share intel, swap fly patterns, and relive the memories from seasons past. This gathering spot, known locally as a February room, is the inspiration for this podcast. No matter the season, the door is always open to those with a fly fishing story to tell. Brought to you by CD Fishing USA, the North American distributor for Composite Development's fly rods and fishing accessories. Tech, precision, ingenuity, legacy. Go to cdfishing.us and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Here's your host, Lauren Carnop, and this is the February Room.
Welcome to the February Room. Today our guest is Jon Hazlett. He's a guide, he's an instructor over in Medford, Oregon. Welcome to the show, Jon.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, as I have been told, you are the premier spey caster. As Justin likes to say, there's not too many people who have the quite precision that you have. So I imagine you must have some pretty incredible fishing stories on the river. Do you have one in particular that you remember?
Oh, it was probably 10 years ago. I was fishing with a guy, single angler, and I'd parked the boat, and it was my raft, and I'd parked it, and we, fished down the run, and we're down the runaways, and I look up river, and my raft is mid-river, like floating, unmanned, mid-river. So, I run up there and realize that there's no way I can get to the boat, and so I run back to the angler and I grab the spey rod, and I thought, well, I can just, cast into the boat and reel it in. But so I start casting, and it's a ways out there. I really had to huck it out there, and I finally hook one of the oar locks, and I start stripping the line in, and then of course the line broke, and we watched my boat go down river through a rapid, and I just was like, oh my gosh, we are so screwed right now. So anyway, we run up the bank to this house, and I knock on the door, and this lady comes to the door, and I tell her what happened, and she says, hey, I'm on my way to work, I can't help you, but I'll get my dad. I said, okay, great. And so, it felt like we stood there for 10 minutes, but this guy was really old. So this old guy comes kind of shuffling his feet to the door, and I told him what happened, and he's kind of looks around. He's like, okay, I need to find my slippers. And I'm like, oh, my dude. And I look at each other, and we're just like, we are just so screwed right now. Because there's a bridge downriver that we had to intercept the boat at. If it got under this bridge past that, we would have just been totally hosed. So he eventually comes back, and he had to find his keys. And then meanwhile, we're in the back of his truck, like waiting. And he comes out, and he starts his truck, warms it up, and goes back in the house. And we're just like, oh geez, we're this is not good. And so finally he gets in the truck, and we drive out this long driveway to the main road, and we get to the end of the driveway, and he throws it in park, and he gets out and checks his mail. And you can imagine. So we're in full panic mode, and so we finally get on the main road, and we're driving down the road at 27 and a 45, and we get about to this. I can see the bridge, and my boat is like 100 yards above the bridge, and so we had to kind of do this loop-de-loop thing to get around to the river, and it looked like it was going to head towards River Right. And so that's where he took me. And then, bridges are always built where there's like a narrow part in the river and a lot of rock, right? Like in a gorge. So I had to So I'm wearing boot foot waders of all things that day, and I start scaling down these rocks like I wouldn't attempt it today. Like, but with the adrenaline and everything, like, and so I almost get down to the river, and my boat, which was heading river right now, is on river left. And so I start scaling back up these rocks, and I notice a couple dudes under the bridge on river left, and they see what's going on, and they were drinking beer or something, and so I see them, and I'm like, guys, if you can get that boat, I got beer in the cooler. And these guys hop up and they grab like a 30-foot long tree that had floated down river. I don't know how they picked this thing up. And they were able to hook the frame of the boat and bring it over to them on river left. And we all caught our breath and had a couple beers under the shade of the bridge and went about our day. But that was the most panic I've ever felt on the river. And we didn't lose. The oars were in the water. All the spey rods and stuff weren't tied down. I mean, we didn't lose a thing. I mean, it just, we, we got lucky.
It's amazing what help when you can get some help when you say there's beer in the boat. They're like Superman power, it's kind of like mom power. If you see your kid about to, be in danger, you kind of like have the super speed. So it must be like for young people, like there's beer in the boat and it's about to sink. You better go out there and save it. They're like, switch on to like Superman power,
They totally did. They totally saved my ass. And, funny, the guy never rebooked after that day. I don't know why, but
hopefully he gave you a bit of a tip.
We only missed a couple runs. I mean, I'm sure he's told that story a few times.
Oh, I'm sure. So tell me a little bit, how did you get into fly fishing?
I grew up fishing with my neighbors. My neighbors were the Griswolds. You can believe that.
Fishing with the Griswolds.
Yeah. But they didn't fly fish, but they were outdoors people. But this old timer from my church introduced me to fly fishing when I was, I don't know, 11 or 12, and showed me how to tie knots and got casting instruction, and I started tying flies and just kind of got my feet wet. I did it for a while. I kind of would. My dad, he's not a fisherman, so I did it with him a little bit, and then I kind of got away from it till college. And my best buddy from college, Chris Lida, he and I started fly fishing in college. That's really when I got back into it.
When did it come to you where you're like, this is going to be my job? Was it that you just fell into it, or did you kind of go into college thinking, I'm so in love with this, I want to do what I love?
It was kind of towards the end of college when I got my first guide job, and it was Chris that he had been working in Alaska at a lodge, and he was a head guide, and he just, got me my first guide job, and I was really green and didn't really have a clue what I was doing. And so at that point, it was just like, oh, this seems like a cool summer job, and then the whole other podcast is I could tell you a story how I got fired from that job.
Do share. I like juicy stories. Tell me. Seriously, tell me why did you get fired?
It's not for all audiences. Well, I don't bring your college age daughter to a fishing lodge. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay, perfect.
So I thought that was it. I got sent home. I had to tell my parents, and I thought that was it for me. And then my same buddy Chris Lida ended up getting a job out in Colorado, and got me a job out there, and it just kind of went from there. And so that's probably where I really got the most experience. And all the guides at this lodge I was at were just total professionals, and so I had some good mentorship there, and then that's when I started exploring Southern Oregon. So that's kind of when things started to seem like, yeah, I could make a go at this year round even.
So what about spey casting? Why is that like your niche? What's so special about spey casting for you?
Well, I have to give Ken Morrish credit. He was the one that said, if you want to be a steelhead guide, this spey casting thing is going to be popular, and you need to figure it out. So I asked him, what do I need to do? And he said, well, buy these videos and buy these rods and reels and lines and go do it. And I had moved to Gold Beach at the mouth of the Rogue River, what I thought was just going to be for the winter. And so that's where I really just went down and just damn near every day went and just cast, and it was ugly for a while. I didn't really have anyone to teach me other than watching Simon Gosworth's videos and his reading his book and whatever, and there wasn't a lot of resources other than that, and I just kind of had to figure it out, and so that's when I just really and it didn't hurt that it was like epic all-time winter steelhead run that year. It was probably the biggest recorded steelhead run in the last, I don't know, 30 years. So I got a little positive reinforcement from some fish, which helped.
Do you have a really memorable steelhead story?
Yeah, I do. I mean, as far as, from early times, I remember being in the grocery store in Gold Beach, and this guy comes up to me and he says, I've been watching you cast across from my house for several months. I said, yeah? He says, yeah. He says, well, it's about time you caught a fish. And so it took a while. It took a while to figure that out. But I have all kinds of steelhead stories I could tell. My best fish guiding last season, last September, is one of the cooler moments I've had as a guide. And this guy from Japan, he became Facebook friends with a mutual friend of mine, and so he wanted to come out. He wanted to fly to the States, and because this guy's he's like a commercial tire, and he'd been spey casting over in Japan and I don't know where else, and so he wanted to come out and fish with different guides around the West, but he ended up in Southern Oregon the whole time. So I guided him for 3 days, and he tied all these beautiful traditional type flies, and he just prepared for this trip, which is makes it more meaningful. And so the first day we got skunked, and I think the second day we hooked and lost a fish, and so now we're down to the third day, and I'm feeling the pressure, and he hooked a fish and lost it, and then we landed a fish. We landed a fish. It was a pretty nice steelhead. And then we get down to this run. It's this long run, and I said, he didn't. His English wasn't very good, but I'm pointing and speaking my best Japanese, which I know none of. And so anyway, I said, fish all the way to the bottom, and he got about halfway through the run, and he walks back to the boat, and I said, everything okay? And he points downriver and he says, too slow. And because the water slows down a bit towards the bottom, but the bottom is where you get them usually. I said, okay. I said, well, no. I said, I want you to march right back down there. And I pointed downriver, and I held my hands out, and I said, big fish down there. And he says, okay. So, and when I tied his fly on, he'd pulled out this really fine wire hook, and it admittedly didn't pinch the barb, because I knew if he hooked a good fish, that hook would not survive. It would open up, and so I wanted a little insurance. So, which is within the regulations of the Rogue River. Anyway, so I remember, so he marches back down there, and I'm watching him fish, and I go down and kind of hang out with him, and he makes this cast, and it's just his best cast of the of that run, and I'm thinking, that one has a chance. And sure enough, his line came tight, and he hooks this giant fish. And so we fought it for a while, and we end up landing it by some miracle. And I took this slow-mo video of the release and his reaction, and it's just absolutely the coolest facial expression reaction. It was the biggest Rogue River fish, that summer steelhead, that I'd ever had a chance to net. So it was just one of those culminations of, a guy travels across the world, was prepared, tied flies, and it was memorable for me as well as him.
Well, I think just kind of for anyone who ever goes out fishing and you kind of bring your own flies, it's kind of like from home to home run kind of feel, that you finally get to reap the benefits of all your hard work and planning and trips. And now that's super cool. What makes spey casting so special for you?
It's the cool thing about it is that it's all on you as the angler. We're waiting, and you have to make the cast, you have to fish the fly. It's all on you. The old school, swinging flies is not, obviously it's the traditional way to steelhead fish, and before spey rods came to the Northwest, guys use single-handed rods, but to me, yeah, it's about being in the river, waiting. You have to make the cast, you have to fish the fly. It's all up to you. But the part about it that I really like is that it's so challenging, and it's the casting is so much fun. And there's no, you take the best casters in the world, they're not perfect casters. They're always trying to improve. They're always learning new things. And so as a guide or instructor, I have the pleasure of working with people and helping them learn a cast, tweak a cast, just get better. And to me, I get a lot out of it. It's selfishly, I get a lot out of it. I mean, I'm just as happy as when someone catches a fish as when I do. Like most guys, we love to catch fish, and when you do hook a fish, you get a grab, and it's all about the grab. That tight line connection to the fish that happens when you least expect it. And then the flies are cool, and the rivers you go to are cool, and so it's just the total package for me.
What kind of flies do you like to fish with?
Well, it's kind of depends on the time of year and the water type and water conditions. The ones that are the most fun to cast are the small traditional ones, and if we could fish those year round, we would, because the casting is way more fun. But as far as localized, like the Rogue River, swinging traditional flies, whatever they are, is awesome. I mean, I guess some of my favorites would be swinging a muddler wet, or we get an October caddis hatch here on the Rogue, and our fish key in on that bug. So we have a few flies that look like that are quite effective. Like a Lady Caroline, or fly called a perpetrator that Matt Callies from California came up with. It's a great one. And then I have my favorites that I'll tie. Yeah, that's a cool thing about it. I mean, steelhead, within reason, the fly doesn't matter. So it's fun to catch them on all kinds of stuff. That's what's great about it.
Is that because it's much more important the way that the presentation than the actual fly, or is it because the steelhead are kind of like, I'm going to eat anything?
It's more about the presentation and finding the right fish in the right mood. Steelhead are migratory and moody, and so yeah, they got to be there, and they got to be in the mood, and then you got to get your fly in the right spot. So yeah, I mean, you think about all the other techniques that are used for steelhead, whether you're nymphing for them or gear fishing. I mean, they'll eat all kinds of stuff. So what makes the fly I had on that day special, I'm really not sure. Right?
Right. Well, and plus, I mean, you live in such a beautiful area in Medford. I heard from the grapevine that there might have been an opportunity where where somebody had hooked a seal.
Well, that's going back a few years. Yeah, there was a time when I used to fish for fall chinook on the lower road when we had some really incredible runs of fish, and this is going back 15 to 18 years. They would dredge these channels in the lower road so the tour boats could get up these shallow gravel bars, and of course the fish used the same channels because it was the deepest, channel going through. And one of our friends, Mr. Chris Lyda, he was swinging some flies through this channel, and he did hook a seal, and the seal won. Yeah, he lost his whole fly line. So we do not target seals, but this seal was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I think it ended up turning out okay for the seal. I thought he had a big salmon on. I was across the river, and so I I got my jet boat and I ran over there to see what was going on, and then I saw this seal porpoising upriver about 500 yards, and I thought, okay, this is not good. But,
You were like he bargained way more than what he wished for. I hear. What is the spey clave?
well, the spey clave is this would have been the 20th year, and it's an event that has been put on by the fly fishing shop in Welch's, Oregon, by Mark and Patty Bachman, and it's the original spey clave event. It's been on the Sandy River, and it didn't happen this year. That's a long time to do this event, and so I don't think they were going to do it this year, but we wouldn't have been able to do it anyway with COVID.
Yeah.
But it's historically evolved into a 3-day event, and you have all your manufacturer reps there with all their rods, reels, lines, other product, and then presentations. And so it's a chance for the general public to go grab any rod line combination that exists on the planet and give it a test run, and then just rub shoulders with people in the industry. And it's so it's an event that I've gone to for the last at least 15 years, and it's just, it's something that I always look forward to. And rumor has it that it's gonna another shop is gonna pick up where Bachman's left off and keep this event going.
The February room is really a place where, a place of sanctuary during those dark days, whether for us, it's February because Missoula gets super dreary and dark and fishing isn't really all that great unless you're traveling somewhere. Do you have a place that's kind of like a sanctuary for you that you kind of call your February room?
I think there's a couple runs I can think of that you get that swing where you just think you're going to get a fish. I can think of a couple runs that are my happy place. And like your husband, I love to hunt, and so as much as I like to fish, and it's also my job, I get that same thing out of hunting. And so being in the woods at the right time, it's a great decompressor for me.
Just like life can sometimes be so crazy, but when you're on the river or you're out in the woods, it's nice not having those earbuds in and having the phone, tucked away and just being aware, as opposed to having your thoughts like, oh, I need to send an email or do this and that. It's kind of nice just to put the world away and just be in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it can take a couple days to get to that point, where if if I do a multi-day fishing trip or hunting trip, it can take a few days to just tune out all the noise that you had going into it, and that's a great place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jon, if people want to learn more about what you do, sign up to go spey casting, what's the best method to get hooked up with you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is speylesson.com, or find me on Instagram at Jon Hazlett, or look me up on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today, Jon, and I wish you much luck on the river, and hopefully we can get together and you can bring me, I have never gone spey casting before, so you can be the one to teach me, and Justin would be much appreciated.
Well, I look forward to it, Lauren, and it's awesome chatting with you, and I really appreciate it.
For the inside scoop on the fly patterns we've discussed with our guest, check our blog for Flies of the February Room. If you would like to enter the February Room, shoot us an email at info@cdfishing.us. Also, remember to subscribe, share, and, if we've earned it, give us those 5 stars. Thanks for dropping by, and remember to go fishing.